Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Nivedita, and I'm from Mauritius. Now I'm living here in Milan. I studied at Galvani High School. It is an honor to be here to talk about this specific and concerned topic of our days. Nowadays, people are drawing their attention to food waste and to how to find a way to reduce the amount of food. It is also fascinating to see social medias like Instagram full of posts to encourage people to reduce the amount of food. However, it could be a challenge to adapt a routine that changes our relationship to the food that we grow, buy, and consume. This living system has been around for a few billion years and will be around for a few more. So we can imagine how food waste will be increasing. About 1.3 billions of food are wasted annually worldwide, and the consequences can be seen far beyond home, business, and landfill sites. The consequences can be resource depletion, oils and water pollution, and species extinction. So how do we reduce food waste? Luckily, we have the circular economy model, an economy that is based on reusing and recycling. In other words, this economy aims to reuse food waste for another purposes elsewhere. And this turns food waste into animal feed, high value energy, fuel. It is also a good conditioner, a good fertilizer, sorry, and it's a soil conditioner that eventually helps to grow more plants. I believe that if we cooperate, we can make our beloved Earth a clean environment. Thank you for having me.
Hi, we are proud to stay here to present our movie, and I'm Alan Vele, the producer of AL1, the production company presenting the project with a partnership with Pesce Rosso Agency, and I just present the creatives, so the director, the co-directors, and co-author of the project, and I leave you with the creative topics. Okay, Francesco.
Yeah. Hi, hello everyone. We are really pleased to be here. And now you're gonna watch a brief kind of promo for the international market of our new first movie, which is an animation movie, feature film, based on characters that are trash, basically. So that's why we are here, because we would like to put the attention of the audience on a subject like this one. And what you're gonna see is like a 2 minutes video. It's not a proper trailer. It's a little bit more spoiled because it's for the international market, so you're lucky. We are coming back after you watch the trailer for further information about it and about everything we've done in the past 3 years has been done. Okay, so you can play the trailer.
Don't you want to be back out there?
We're trash, Bubbles. Let's embrace our trashiness.
Excuse me? Can you help me? I'm lost.
The road!
That's who I want. The shiny box.
You believe in the magic pyramid? You think it's real? Of course it's real. Or maybe it isn't.
What's your name, stranger?
It is change that makes us feel alive. The magic pyramid does exist, but he has nothing to do with it.
You're not like us. You're a carrier.
It's your duty to protect him.
Bubbles.
Let's go. Bye.
Okay, as you have seen in this sneak peek of the movie, it's packed with action, fun action, funny moments, kind of some drama, as in every good story. That's why, because we wanted to catch the attention of the audience and to make them feel emotionally involved in how our characters feel, to put the attention on the idea at the base of the movie. In order to do that, we based the entire project, obviously, trying to narrate a good story. A story, sorry about that.
About recycling and mainly about recycling and,
Yeah, no,
and education versus edutainment.
exactly, exactly. And but I have to say that the core and the beating heart of the movie, the entire story, is based on the idea of the second chance. All the characters in this movie has a second chance. They have to grab it. They have to deserve it, but they need a second chance, as we do. So what we really want to do is to make the audience feel in touch with the idea of second chance itself through the characters and feel emotionally touched. Now we have another little clip to show to you, which is like a workflow, like to show you how we are doing the movie. We began to work back in 2013 with the script, and then we began with the pre-production, and now we are in the advanced post-production. But you're going to have a look at the characters, because every character is thought about a different type of trash, waste. So you have boxes, bottles, and cans, and everything, basically. We have the bad guys, as you've just seen, which are objects that can't be recycled, basically because of human don't want to recycle them. For example, a computer tower PC, okay, with this different type of materials that has to be deassembled to be recycled. But anyway, now you're going to have a look at the characters and how we are doing the movie.
Launch
Thank
the
you.
video, please.
Folks, now here's a story about Minnie the Moocher.
time is up, and I just want to leave you with some keywords about our workflow and way to produce our movie. And in here we have all the keywords. We basically going to do something of sustainable development goals by approaching like a Horizon 2020 approach, and by a digital shadow who follow every kind of task, facility, and every needings of the production. Thank you for your attention. Bye.
Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? Excellent. That is a bright light. Francesco and team, what a wonderful video and permissible way to engage people around this issue. Everybody deserving a second chance. Powerful message when we think about circular economy. So, my name is Emmanuel. I am, as many speakers have said, honored and super excited to be with you here today. I'm humbled to join this lineup of incredible speakers. I'm glad to be early in the presentation because it means you're going to learn heaps after my talk. So pressure down on me, pressure up on you. I think there are two things to know about me which are contextually relevant for the topic. And the first one is I used to be a youth activist, as you can see on this awful photo. I traveled the world telling companies that unless you change, the world will go under. And in doing so, I learned quite a few things. The first thing I learned is it's quite hard to affect a company from the outside, telling them they need to change. And the second thing I learned is whether we like it or not, and at the time, I didn't like it, companies are incredibly good at getting things done, okay? I'd argue when they really decide they want to get things done, they're probably among the best in the world to making it happen. So now I'm a big company guy. Disclosure, I need to walk backwards. Oh, the light, sorry. And big company guy means big impact, whether we like it or not. And big impact can be a really good thing if you channel it in the right way. And of course, as we know, history have told us, it can also be a quite bad thing. I'm an optimistic guy. I like to believe it's a very good thing. And appropriately, because we have a big problem at stake and at hand. Our first speaker, our T-innovator, mentioned the number. Put in other words, you know, and this sort of thing also contextualized how connected these issues are. If food waste was a country, it would be the third largest contributor to the carbon footprint that we're dealing with. So, as a big company, without coming here naively to believing we're going to change the entire world as we know it, we certainly want to do our part. So a couple of words on Mondelez. Big company, doing the best we can to play a role in this. We do invest a lot in our supply chain, and I don't mention that to say we do corporate social responsibility, because I fundamentally don't think corporate social responsibility is a good thing, because it implies you can do a hell of a lot of bad, as long as you do a bit of good. But we do have very recently launched our new impact ambition, which is about snacking made right. Why snacking? I'll come back to talk about that in a few minutes, but it's essentially a huge consumer behavior. And for us, that works sort of at two levels. It works at the planet level, and it works at the human level, obviously, because we are touching billions of people with our product. We need to think about both. We think about it through our supply chain, obviously minimizing our impact, but also in terms of what's within our direct control, which is largely about the factories that we run. We run a lot of factories. I used to run the Nordics chocolate business, and every year I was quite impressed about how little waste we were actually generating in our factories. And Alexa, our panelist later, also reassured me that we're doing very well based on industry standards on that. But despite that, we're continuously pushing it down as well. The other thing, which is a big thing for us, is obviously the single biggest mitigator of food waste in our supply chain is packaging. And for those of you who were at the panel yesterday, did anyone listen to the plastic panel thing? A few of you. Excellent. It's a very complex issue, but certainly saying it's all bad is problematic, because we can preserve macro and micronutrients of our food and extend the shelf life on some of the vegetables from a few days to 6 to 9 months. And it doesn't need to be done through preservatives. Packaging plays a big role. And obviously it needs to be recyclable. Some would argue compostable. We can have that debate, not for now. But in the end, we can just do that much because we need people to essentially close the loop for us. So, in order to push the boundaries further, we're looking for inspiration. How many of you have heard of Ellen MacArthur? Quite a few. In my ignorance, I hadn't until very recently. And now I've come to admire the work that she does through her foundation, but also because of the person that she is. I saw a TED Talk probably 6 months ago. I'd recommend everybody to see it, where she talks about her transformative experience in understanding circular living. For those of you who don't know her, she's a sailing lady. She travels the world as an adventurer. And she essentially understood intellectually and emotionally and very deeply how we need to stop living in a linear way and start living in a circular way. Okay? And whilst I admire the work that they do through the foundation and the work that she does, I think it's asking consumers, a hell of a lot of people, asking normal people a hell of a lot, essentially, to have a similar deep, transformative experience to understand the issue of food waste. And I think that sets up a wonderful role for us as businesses, because it means we can aspire to help simplify this very complex issue for normal people and essentially create beautifully designed, irresistible brands and propositions that also solve, the issue around food waste. A great example of this, I think, is Rubies and the Rebels. Probably some of you have heard of it. People might buy this because it's great ketchup, or because it's a really nice design, or because they want to use it as a badge of honor to be a conscious consumer. As far as I'm concerned, when we think about this issue, it doesn't really matter, because the key thing is that part of the brand's DNA, we have essentially built in the whole issue at hand, and it's presented in a really simple and accessible ways to essentially start affecting a lot of people. Because I think however you cut this issue, we've got to bring people with us on that journey, and I see that as our role. I was going to show a film now, but in the interest of time, I won't have time to do it, but obviously I was reborn in January in a big corporate through something we called Snack Futures, which is an inventor and venture hub from Mondelez, so sort of independent. And our desire is to create snacking world that's good for people, kind to the planet, and it needs to taste well. Because as all of us working in food, we know that if it doesn't taste well, they'll probably only try it once. And of course, if you want to create big change, they need to try it over and over again. So, change of schedule, no film. Is that okay? We're going to jump over it.
That's impossible.
We are seeing the film.
Imagine what the world would look like if we actually believed that. We'd have none of this, none of this, and definitely none of this. You know who decides what is possible? We do. The dreamers, the rule breakers, the risk takers. Those of us that don't see the world as it is, but as it could be. Today, we have the opportunity to do more, do it faster, and do it better. At Mondelez International, this excites us. We are on a mission to lead the future of snacking. That's why we created Snack Futures, an innovation and venture hub designed to feed consumers' appetite for what's next. By inventing new snacks, reinventing favorites, and investing in up-and-coming innovators. Our insatiable curiosity and hunger to disrupt has us exploring the earth to uncover trends, form human connections, and unlock new inspirations. Snack Futures will push the boundaries of what's possible and create a snacking world that is good for people, kind to the planet, deliciously fun. Snack Futures.
So clearly, that's our mission. That's what we want to do. And in snacking, because snacking is absolutely an enormous consumer behavior, a $1.2 trillion dollar behavior, and it's growing faster than food. But it's also a representation of how we live our lives. Think about your tweets, the way you consume media today. It's the same in food. It's an irreversible trend. So if we want to think about food waste, we need to think about snacking. And food waste for us is an opportunity to reimagine how we think about designing brands that are kind to the planet, good for people, and deliciously fun. And it could be through imperfect produce. It could also be through wonky and strange vegetables. But the core guiding thought that we bring in is we're going to preserve the macro and micronutrients of these foods. We're going to pack them well to preserve the shelf life. And in presenting it to people, we want to do it in a way that's absolutely irresistible and that tastes well so that they can join us on the mission. Whether they're aware of it, they're saving the planet in doing it or not, for us, is okay. The important thing is part of our design and the way we think about the whole development. So the good news is this is not an uphill battle, and this came up in the panel yesterday. Consumers are already there, and I think as an activist, the government's inaction around some of these issues triggers bottom-up movements with people. They want to play their part. Our obsession to create propositions for these people isn't an uphill battle. They're joining us on this journey. So coming to a close, let's revisit Ellen MacArthur and her invitation for us in reshaping and recreating this future. So rethinking the future is a profound challenge. At the end of an era of cheap oil and materials, to rethink and redesign how we produce and consume, to reshape how we live and work, or even to imagine the jobs that will be needed for this transition, I think is a wonderful invitation for all of us. And I think for Snack Futures, we have made it pretty clear. We now know what our job is. It's a real sense of purpose that guides us. And my invitation for all of you, of course, is to ask yourself the same question. I'm sure in this room, many of you have already asked the question, and you are pretty clear. So the invitation for, or my call to action in the true spirit of these talks, is to go and ask our friends, our families, in order to engage a lot of people around the issue we're trying to deal with here. So with that, thank you very much for listening, and I'm handing over to someone.
Looking for my global sustainability goal, because they might ask unintendedly. Good afternoon, everybody. Hi, my name is Timothy Childs. Oh, hi, nice to see you. Did anybody make it to the amazing party last night at Mondelez? Thank you so much for hosting last night. It was one of the best parties we've ever been to here at Seeds&Chips. My name is Timothy Childs. I'm the founder and co-CEO of Treasure 8 in San Francisco, and on behalf of my amazing rockstar team that some of them are here, we're very happy to be here at Seeds&Chips, and we're very happy to be a formal partner with Seeds&Chips as well. So as we work on taking some big solutions together. So a lot of us know all these facts, so I'm just going to put these up here. We've heard of these facts over and over again, but those who haven't seen this before, I try to condense them. But one of the things people don't realize that actually food waste leads to conflict. You can reference earlier talk that I did at Seeds&Chips last year that talks about food waste can be a driver for conflict. So how many people here feel that the opportunity is food waste, business opportunity is pretty big? Okay. And by the way, it's food waste is a horrible name. I know. Hopefully other people will be talking about how we can change it. How many people think it's really, really big? Okay. How many people think it's like gigantic? All right, cool. All right. So we're in the right audience then. So what we think is, it's a big statement to say, like, is this the largest opportunity in human history, right? That's a big statement. Well, here's how we back it up with our argument. Well, food industry is the largest industry, as we know. It's continuing to grow. And it's also, as we know, like anywhere between 30 to 60% of the waste, depending on which country, goes to waste, right? So we all know that. And then so, but it's also, the food industry is the last industry to optimize, to efficientize, if you look at it. So basically what it really is there's a giant opportunity to harness, this wasted energy. That's really what it is, and really put it to use. So we have found that there's very few solutions out there. What's really needed is a kind of systemic solution to look at it end to end. Otherwise, you can't do it at scale. You can't own it piecemeal. That's what we're working on. And we see the opportunity to build this bold and audacious plan, this end-to-end solution is going to be one of the largest, to address one of the largest opportunities we've ever seen. So I'd gladly argue with that with anybody who wants to talk to me afterwards, but we think it's a huge opportunity. So who are we? So Treasure 8, we're a food tech company, and we're focusing on systemically transforming global waste at massive scale. If we can't get the system to work at very large scale, we can't create a low pressure by all the CPG companies that need to take these ingredients and pull it on through. Otherwise, it's just going to be a waste of time and energy. So what we're doing is we're designing these regenerative methods to produce food for all through our proprietary technologies, ingredients, and products. We call that TIP. So what we've done is we've think about this entire supply chain, entire value chain, by all these different steps necessary to take large amounts of waste stream. I won't talk about it too much in detail, but one of the biggest bottlenecks to do this is all the business development, all the things necessary to work with the waste stream sources, whether it's infield waste where we work with, or post-production, like from beer or tofu or juice pressing or whatever. Just to be able to get that product off like the back dock of a retailer is a giant lift. So what's needed is a lot of kind of business development and contracts agreements just to get it out the door. That's one of the areas we're working on it. But what we're going to talk about today is a little bit about our conversion systems. So, and again, just to rehash, people always ask this question, we're not working on some of the solutions from, say, restaurants or food service. We're working on major, consistent, reliable supply chains that have traceability all the way through so we can actually deliver that to large-scale CPGs to be able to know it's consistent and reliable. So I'm not going to really talk about our great products. We've got some up here. We're making great upcycled chips. Nor am I really going to talk about our amazing ingredients, but I'm going to talk mostly about technology since this is what the main topic of it is. So last week I got the great opportunity to speak at Milken Global, where I saw some of the Mondelez folks there. And I was asked to put, if I could summarize everything in one slide. This is all in one slide of kind of what we're doing, so you can take a snapshot of that. I won't go into it. So, but basically, what people see from Treasure Island is like an iceberg, right? What they see is just kind of our products on top, but we have this massive little system that we built underneath it. And for those who are Michelin-aligned people, we also have our Series B investment open, and we'd love to talk to you. And there's a bunch of our team right there if you want to buttonhole us. So, in order to do this, we found a lot of the challenges been saying, well, us, large company A, large company B, we looked at focusing on food waste. We couldn't really, it didn't make the right sense, the economics didn't work. Well, we figured out the two major blocks were, it was actually transporting the waste over to be processed, and it's also the energy systems required to do that. So what we've been focusing on is drying solutions at the source and to beginning to build the infrastructure to actually use off-the-grid technology, energy systems to actually run those systems so we can deploy in field and at factories without additional resources to do so. And be able to do this allows us to actually, by dropping our costs, our operating costs, also allows us to bring these deployable technologies more deeper in country as well. So we've got a number of patents and a number of patent pending technologies and we have multiple drying modalities. And we're kind of taking this, what's called in a rough term is refractory approach from making stuff that's low value as well as to high value all the way to nutraceuticals and flavors like that. So we're looking at one stream at a time and really extracting as much value as we possibly can. And we often partner with the USDA and we have them on our patents as well. But the kind of the exciting thing that we just kind of, shake ourselves sometimes to believe is we actually kind of hit the trifecta, which is almost close to impossible to do. We're actually making higher quality products with stronger nutritional density based upon other systems and at lower costs, right? So I challenge anybody to come talk to us and we'll give you some examples of that. So that's crazy, but it works. And this is one example of one of our drying systems. We got a grant from the California Energy Commission to build this first one because it's very low energy savings. It allows it running off of gas. And then that's actually this whole system, we ran it off a school bus, a compressed natural gas school bus, just to prove the model that we can be self-sustaining off of a non-utility basis. So at that core of the technology, really won't talk too much detail about it, but it's a completely new form of dehydration. So basically it ends up with a much higher nutrient-dense output. And one of the other things that this core technology allows us to do is take infield waste like apples or beets or whatever, and slice them and make chips out of them within about 45 minutes without any frying oil and no acrylamides, by the way. It's very important. but it also allows us to break into the freeze-dried market, right? Which is kind of shocking when I first looked into it. It's a $46 billion a year business. So our technology allows us to process things a lot faster. So pineapples and strawberries, about 80% less energy to produce it. And we're basically coming out with 20% less cost. And the crunch is superior than regular freeze-drying. So that's kind of a big, huge thing. It's a great idea for snacking for kids. And you start tying that into all the retail output from like a Walmart or a Kroger or whatever. One of the main outputs are bananas and berries, right? So you start putting it together and got a good opportunity to really make some change here and make nutrition more affordable to those who need it. So I wanted to kind of capture some of this great energy that happened at the Milk and Global Conference and kind of share that with a group. Is we see that there's going to be a tectonic shift of capital coming towards the food sector, right? And then the conversations are moving from healthcare solutions are coming online. A lot of transference from solutions are going to happen for like AIDS is being solved now and all sorts of stuff. So there's going to be a shift from pharma dollars and healthcare dollars to food. So a major thing that was happening is there's finally research kind of coming out to validate what we all know: whole foods are medicine. So the research came out last week showing, it was presented last week, showing that whole fruits and vegetables, some of them specifically, are as effective or more effective than a number of cancer drugs for fighting cancer. Okay, so it's pretty crazy. So Rutgers research did that. So another signal that we start seeing, this is kind of exciting, is that well, the next slide is going to be about a call to action that we need to start thinking about as an industry. Is basically another signal is the EU just last week announced that they're looking for methodologies to track how food waste should be monitored, measured and monitored. And as we all know, that the Beyond Meat IPO is really getting people kind of frothed up about that, and it's very exciting. So in closing, I've got a couple calls to action, right? So what's really happening here is we're creating a whole new industry. Right? So we're within a context of this, but we're creating a whole new industry, and we're just calling it the food resource recovery industry. Food waste is a crummy term, it's been stuck for a while, so we're trying to reframe it where we can. So that's what we're really doing. It's a resource recovery play. It's been done in other industries as well, technology included. So what's needed is standards bodies and a consortia and policy. So what's going to happen is what we predict and what we're having built a couple standards bodies before in other categories, what's going to happen is once the money's there, all sorts of people come and have solutions. And if we don't have standards of what quality means and what really, how do we measure and monitor it, there's going to be a bunch of noise, and that's going to really slow down our progress. So what we think is going to be driving this is economics, right? The value creation of this. So how many people here have heard of ReFed? Right? Okay, great. So check out refed.org. It's an amazing group of people. We love them very much. And what they're doing is they've been spending the last 5 years is doing the economic models proving to large CPG companies and retailers that if you work on food waste, actually it's got economic benefit. So for every $1 invested, there's a 17x return ROI. That's a big deal. So what they've been doing is now arming the bean counters and the CFOs of these organizations to demonstrate how this makes sense. So that's really something I'd like for you guys to pay attention to and to take a look. And the other part about it is it's also taking a page out of Patagonia's book, right? It's leading by example. That's why we build our first machines ourselves, or our 4 deployments, or our whole systems. We do it all by ourselves just to get it going, to start the conversation. So in closing, this is what I'd like for everybody here to make a commitment to do, if you're so willing to do so. So often at these meetings, these conferences, these conversations about, we've got 9 billion people by 2050, that standard thing we've heard over and over again. What often happens is they're talking about we need to have technology, higher yields from crops, we need more farmlands and using technology, vertical farming. Rarely is the conversation about food waste the first thing that's mentioned, if even at all. So whenever in these conversations you hear them, ask the questions, force the issue to actually make the concept of, hey, if we just utilize some of the 14 bazillion billion tons, metric tons of food waste. If we converted that, we'll have enough food for a lot of people. So that should be forefront in the conversation set, not more fertilizers and all this kind of stuff. So that's basically what I had to say, and I want to encourage everybody to really try to push on that where they can. So I just want to thank you for your time, and then on behalf of Treasure Aid, all teams there, if you want to engage with us, we're here to talk to you. Oh, and by the way, I'm glad I remembered, we're having, right after this thing, if anybody wants to join, we're having a aperitivo at the Vienhoed booth, and it's free champagne for all, and you can try some of our snacks. So thank you.
Right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Zorns. I am one of the founders of Winnow. At Winnow, we believe that food is too valuable to waste, and we build technology that helps kitchens understand and then prevent food waste. And what I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today is some of the companies using our technology and a little bit more about what we do. So just to introduce some people first, this is Kirsten. Kirsten is a kitchen production manager at IKEA in Eindhoven, which is a town about a one-hour train ride outside of Rotterdam or Amsterdam. A few facts about IKEA that you may not know. They serve billions, I think, of meatballs per year. You may know that. What a lot of people don't understand is actually if you were to put IKEA relative to all the other global restaurant chains in the world, they'd be around in the top 10 of restaurant chains out there. They have a huge F&B business. This is Sarah. She works at Morrison's. Morrison's is a major UK supermarket. They also have cafes where they serve food to people that come through the stores. They won a national fish and chips competition. They have arguably the best fish and chips being delivered at scale across the UK, and I can definitely underline that. It is excellent. And then finally, I want to introduce you to VJ. VJ is the executive chef at the Armani Hotel. The Armani Hotel is a 7-star hotel inside the Burj Khalifa in downtown Dubai. It is one of the top hotels in the world. It has 5 five-star restaurants inside of it, and is a massive operation kind of at the center of what is a really exciting country in the UAE and the tallest tower in the world. And sort of what do all of these sort of very different individuals have in common? And the reality is if you look at this across an IKEA or a Morrison's or a high-end hotel like the Armani Hotel, they unfortunately all throw away a lot more food than they would like to. And they're not doing it because they're bad at their jobs. In fact, I think they're excellent at their jobs. They just lack the tools to be able to understand what's being wasted and to actually drive and enact change. And so why would you care about this issue of food waste? So around a third of food is wasted. We've talked about the economic issue. It's about $1 trillion a year that is thrown away. When you focus in on this in the hospitality industry alone, it's about $100 billion that's actually wasted. And a lot of the people that we speak to, some of our clients, before we got there, were throwing away more money in what they were paying for the food that was going in the bin than they were actually making in profit, right? It's kind of strange, but if you're in a restaurant business and you are in fact throwing away 10, 15, 20% of what you're purchasing, and that is your number one input, why wouldn't you be doing something about it? So Winnow is on a mission to connect the kitchen. We want to create a movement of chefs to inspire others to see that food is too valuable to waste. We're going after helping the hospitality industry solve that $100 billion problem. We also are excited to lift up the companies that are doing something about it because this is where we all eat. And if the places that we eat do something about food waste, we believe that's going to drive change, how people think about food waste in their own homes. And we've seen that work with a number of the customers that we work with already. If you look inside the hospitality industry and you just think about the food waste that happens inside of a kitchen before it gets to a plate, typically what we find is people throw away anywhere between 4 to 13% of what they actually purchase, right? When you ask a chef and you go in there and you say, how much food do you throw away? They say between 3 to 5% of what they buy. Less than 15% of all kitchens we've ever worked with run at 5% or less. Half throw away double that amount. So it's a very, very real cost to these operations. And if you look in this, specifically in the area where we focus, food that's made in advance, there is an enormous amount of food that's thrown away actually within the direct control of the kitchen. So if you're talking about a contract catering operation, a quick service restaurant, a hotel, a casino, a cruise line, the problem is not the customers that are putting too much food on their plates. 75% of the problem is actually within the direct call of the shift, or excuse me, the direct control of the chef with that. And so why aren't they solving this problem today? Well, a lot of them are trying, but actually understanding and solving food waste is a real challenge. Some of the companies we work with say, we're recording food waste, but we're using kind of a handwritten sheet to actually document that information. Other companies are counting the number of buckets that they have. A vast majority, sadly, are not measuring food waste at all, but those are actually trying to pursue that. And many of them have converted over to being our customers, because what we find is that unless you put a sophisticated solution in to actually address food waste in the hospitality industry, you can't really drive meaningful change. But when you do put something in, you can actually cut that food waste in half, saving customers anywhere between 2% to 8% of what they spend on food. And so at Winnow, we really asked the question, what if we could arm chefs with artificial intelligence or computer vision to begin to understand actually what's being wasted? And so with that, we went out and we built a technology called Winnow Vision. Winnow Vision is the first computer vision automated food waste recording system that's been deployed at scale around the world. There is effectively a terminal that goes on a wall, a camera that sits underneath that terminal that looks down at the bin. As food is thrown away, it automatically identifies what that product is, giving chefs information around what's being wasted that then feeds into production practices to help them drive change. So just to talk through a little bit about how this technology works. It looks down at the bin, and as food is thrown away, the first thing that it does is it takes a before photo and an after photo of what was actually wasted. It then identifies what's actually new that's been thrown away and passes that through a computer vision algorithm to identify the product that is. That can be everything from something that is as simple as chips or cucumbers, or something more complex, right? Like a composite dish, like a Greek salad. We then know how much that food is actually costing the kitchen. We then prepare immediately and feedback information around what that cost was of what's being wasted, and then feed that data back into how we actually work. To sort of show you how the system works in the kitchen, it's very simple. Someone will go throw food away. This is an IKEA kitchen. It's looking down, and then it identifies the product automatically to help you figure out what that was for that. It makes the process in a very, very busy kitchen of understanding exactly what was wasted automatic, taking away any of the issues around the time spent or the accuracy of collecting that data to help you go after that prize, which is a 2% to 8% food cost savings, which people really want to get after. We then take that information and we feed that into analytics. That information goes into push reports that goes into the chefs. It feeds into their production planning to be able to help them think about how they make products better. And ultimately, we drive down food waste and sort of cut it in half as a result. We know that when you put Winnow in, that typically, in about 3 to 6 months, you can cut food waste by about 40%. And in the long run, on average, we're reducing food waste within our clients by 65% by value. Really minimizing actually what happens in this kitchen, helping it run as efficiently as it can, fundamentally through lean principles, but enabled through data, technology, and the right input at the right time for chefs to be able to actually drive that change. Today, we're saving our clients over $30 million a year in food costs. So we are an at-scale business, demonstrating that this works all over the world. We work with well over 1,000 kitchens. If you're a small site spending $100,000 a year, you can save $5 grand. If you're a big cruise ship, there's hundreds of thousands, potentially even millions on the table to go out and save. Generally, with the clients that invest in our technology, we deliver a 200% to 1,000% return on investment in year one. So thank you very much for the time. Really a sort of call to action on this is if you're in the food industry, if you run businesses that are in any way involved in producing food on site, or you're a large corporate that wants to get serious about cutting food waste in your own staff restaurants and in your own operations, we'd love to have a conversation. We'd love people to join this mission. Today, we're saving $30 million a year. Our ambition over the next few years is to grow that to $1 billion per year of being saved. That's still only 1% of the overall hospitality problem, but we think is something that is a meaningful middle next step for us. Be happy to connect. Please reach out to our stand or send me a note and we'll connect later. Thanks a lot.
Good afternoon, everyone. Is my slide up yet? Can I write my presentation? Thank you very much. Good afternoon, I'm Gary Oppenheimer. It's a delight to be here. And I'm glad that Tim spoke about scaling in the corporate world, because I'm going to be talking about scaling in the nonprofit space to eliminate the waste of food there. The theory of change that we apply is that in order to scale food waste elimination in the nonprofit space, you, number one, have to identify what the real problem is. Number two, find people who really care about it, that make them even more informed about it so they're powerful enough to do something, enable them to actually solve it, build a solution that scales, and then get out of their way and let them do their magic. Scaling is super important. It's because, frankly, if you replicate a program over and over again, it's redundant. Successes aren't shared. Failures aren't shared. It doesn't move ahead as it should. It's inefficient, it's costly, and most importantly, scaling assures impact. So I'm going to be talking about the faith community and the gardening community in terms of food waste solutions. So starting with the faith community, we're all experts in food. And if you look around the room, we're all talking to each other. But as a food expert, when you go out and you talk to people outside, they're mostly involved with what their real work is. So instead, the people who can get to them are the faith community, given in mind the fact that most food pantries are actually in a house of worship. We created a program called Food Waste Weekend, and it's intended to help the Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, and Unitarian communities, and by the way, also the spiritual, learn about the waste of food from their own faith perspective. We did this by creating a faithy-sounding but faithless sermon on the waste of food. And then we translated it into Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, and Unitarian. We then walk the faith leaders, this is all online, exactly through the process. We educate them about the waste of food. We then let them download the sermon, rewrite it in their own words if that's what they want to do. We give them 9 calls to actions written by food waste experts, optional material that they're going to need to do the good work that they do, and how they can extend it out into their community. So instead of one person trying to get the attention of people, you have a faith leader who's speaking to dozens or hundreds of people at one time about what their own faith, their own spiritual perspective says about the waste of food. This year, Food Waste Weekend is going to be on September 6th through 8th across the world. And you can help if you want. Visit foodwasteweekend.org/launch, and there's everything needed for the entire faith community to learn about it. The Pope has already spoken about the waste of food as stealing from the poor, and I'm delighted to tell you that this Friday I'm actually having a meeting at the Vatican about Food Waste Weekend. This is how you scale a program. The second program we have, which is one we're known for, which is called ampleharvest.org, is for the gardening community, and this one's specific to the United States. We've done a survey. You've been hearing numbers about food waste, but nobody asked gardeners how much food do they actually waste. Well, we asked people first, what do you grow? And everybody grows tomatoes. One person admitted to growing marijuana. But we know that most gardeners are actually growing food in their home gardens. Most of the gardeners, given the opportunity, would like to donate the food. Most of the gardeners would deliberately grow more once they knew that they could donate the food. In the United States, and I'm pretty sure globally, we have 2 communities. One, we have gardeners. There are 42 million of them in the United States. And they're in home gardens, and community gardens, and rooftop, and all over the place. People love to garden and love to grow food. This is what one gardener looks like, and this is what one garden season looks like. And it's more food than we can use, and this becomes food waste. We also have in the United States hungry people, homeless people, elderly, the young, people who are themselves food insecure, and this is what they see at most food pantries, jars and cans and boxes, but no fresh food. And the kicker is that the gardeners with the excess food and the people with the desperate need for the food are neighbors. They live side by side. here's a sample of a food drive. I love this picture because the box says citrus, but it's full of jars and cans. So the problem in the US for gardeners is we've all been told you can't donate fresh food. So the result is that when we do grow too much, we compost it, we throw away, it's wasted. And the reason for that is an architectural issue in the food bank system that has the delay of time moving through, which is fine for processed but terrible for fresh food. The solution was to Uberize the system. And that solution, that idea actually was before there was actually an Uber. So Milan, it's my first time to Milan. It is a beautiful city. But there's also a Milan in the United States just west of Chicago. So take a quick trip with me. There's a food pantry in Milan. Draw a circle around it, 9-mile radius, 250 square miles. And I ask you to imagine how many gardens and gardeners are there in 250 square miles? And the answer is a lot. Now, if you funnel their excess food to a single food pantry, you have solved the issue of the waste of food for the gardeners, and you've solved the issue of the lack of fresh food at the food pantry at that location. So ampleharvest.org was launched 10 years ago this month. By the way, it's happy birthday to us, to create public awareness that you can donate the food and to enable the donations. We function as a large-scale solution to sending the word out, and we also then turn around and we act as a search engine so gardeners can actually find the pantries and donate the food. The other magic in ampleharvest.org is for the first time gardeners are actually told that they can donate the food and when they can donate the food, and that eliminates the need for refrigeration and storage at the food pantries. We have lots of solutions, but the key thing is it scales and it works any place in America. And these are what just some sample pictures look like of what food looks like when it gets donated to a food pantry instead of being lost to waste. So this is what your typical food recovery program looks like, a group of really good, hardworking people in one town, and this is what a scaled solution actually looks like. Ampleharvest.org was launched in May of 2009, and today we're at about 8,500 food pantries in 4,000 communities in all 50 states across the United States. That is how a program scales. When you build a program like that, you start to get
Groups like
attention.
the National Council of Churches have joined with an organization called Ample Harvest to help gardeners donate fresh produce to 4,700 of their local food pantries.
And you get the media starting to talk a lot about gardeners donating food.
Well, in tonight's Show You Care Spotlight, Dubuque Food Pantry directors say more low-income families have access to fresh fruits and vegetables this summer. KCRG TV9's Katie Wiedemann discovered that's in part to a recent spike in people donating goodies from their gardens.
Inside the Dubuque Food Pantry, Director
I
Teresa
love this
Caldwell is
lady.
happy to be dealing with a good problem. This summer, a plethora of people have been donating fresh fruits and vegetables, and low-income families are taking all of this home.
500 pounds of produce have gone out per week.
Suddenly, eligible families have easy access to this locally grown food. But Sheriff hopes this easy and free access of fruits and vegetables will change the way low-income families eat. But they also expect it to change the way they think.
It's so neat to see. Sometimes I'll have a child come in and they'll go right for the apples and grab an apple and start eating it.
A change that starts with just one bite.
So I mentioned that ampleharvest.org is 10. It's happy birthday to us. And I'm going to hope that you will follow us with the hashtag of Squash Hunger. So in the circular economy discussion, the need for food and the opportunity to donate actually are side by side. And this brings these two communities together. So I started with the theory of scale, and I want to review that with you because I want to go a bit deeper into that for a moment. This is what you saw before, but let's go one by one. First, you have to identify what the real problem is. Go for the root cause. Let's be realistic. If somebody is drowning, it's not the water. It's that they can't swim. That's the real problem. You have to find people who already care. Gardeners have hated wasting the food. We merely had to unleash both their passion and the produce. Additionally, the priests and rabbis and imams have been talking about ending hunger since the beginning of religion. We just enabled them to talk about food waste as a way of doing it. We want to make them even more informed so that they become the experts as they pursue the effort to end the waste of food. We enable them to actually solve it. We actually put everything that's needed up online, and the solution has to scale. It has to work any place, and it has to work every place, and then get out of their way. People are good. They will do what's necessary and what's right. Talked about a survey. This is exactly the type of slide you're not supposed to have, so we're going to go to this one, which has the numbers you're supposed to have. The gardeners have 11 billion pounds of food. That's enough to feed 28 million people. And if every gardener was donating food, that's a $58 billion impact on the health of the country in terms of reduced medical expenses. So lastly, I just wanted to say, for those of you involved in the nonprofit space and in food waste, come to us. We're happy to share our knowledge with you regardless of the country that you're in. We've already shared it with several countries. We'd be happy to share it with more. And if you're looking to partner with us, corporate or philanthropically, we'd love to talk with you. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Alexi. I'm from Qantas. My sole role in life, or my sole goal in life, is to bring science to decision making, to making solutions. This is what we do at Qantas. We bridge science with solutions. We do this for a whole bunch of different problems, marine plastic pollution, for example, and today I'll be talking to you about food waste. Now, I have a lot of work to do, so one of my goals in this presentation is to teach you a little bit about sustainability so that you can go out and do this work. In an ideal world, I would not have a job. In an ideal world, there would be no such thing as sustainability consulting. Companies, regulators, policymakers would be doing this as an integrated part of their work. So let's start with a little case study that I went through for the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. We wanted to look at Portugal as just one example of where people need to be eating more fruits and vegetables, and there's quite a high amount of fruit and vegetable waste in the home. So the Portuguese, like everyone, do not eat enough, and like most people, at least in the United States and Europe, for example, they're wasting a lot of these fruits and vegetables at home, about 15%. So is this important, and should it be prioritized? That is the fruit and vegetable waste in the Portuguese households. Now here we're talking a lot about food waste and how it's an enormous global problem. But when we start looking at very specific decision-making spaces, it's good to use science to try to understand these issues. So we ran some numbers. We calculated the carbon footprint of this waste. And in fact, the fruit and vegetable waste per person is about the same as one small bite of hamburger. The impact of producing that food that's wasted, in terms of carbon footprint, is the same as about one small bite of hamburger. If we look at that from a yearly perspective, 1 year of fruit and vegetable waste in a Portuguese household is equal to about 2 hamburgers. So here we see that yes, fruit and vegetable waste is a problem. Food waste is a large global problem. But if we're looking at Portuguese diets and Portuguese waste, for example, the issue is not wasting fruits and vegetables at home. The issue is actually eating more fruits and vegetables to replace products like beef burgers. So actually, beef is about 120 times more carbon, let's say more intensive on the environment in terms of carbon than lettuce. My colleagues are really good at communication, and they told me that in order to communicate, I need to have some props. So I'm trying to capture your attention here. Here is a hamburger. Here is lettuce. Hamburger, 120 times more impacting than lettuce. I hope you're all off your phones now because this is hilarious. So if we look at this, the impacts of a hamburger and lettuce, and we try to put this information to a hypothetical company example. So like I said, in an ideal situation, I wouldn't have a job. I would be, on a beach somewhere collecting plastic, perhaps. But in any case, let's throw out this hypothetical company example. A company comes to me and they say, we have a problem with our food waste. We're wasting 50 tons of burger buns. We're wasting 50 tons of lettuce. and we're wasting about 1 ton of hamburger meat. Now, remembering that a hamburger is about 120 times more impacting than something like lettuce, let's see if you're paying attention. So, if you're giving this company advice, who would tell them that they need to focus on their burger bun waste? Raise your hand. Who would tell them they need to focus on their lettuce waste? Raise your hand. And who would tell them that they need to focus on their hamburger waste? A room full of hands. Fantastic. I can give these toys back to Simone's daughter. This is my colleague Simone from Milano. So if anyone wants to speak to him later from Italy, from Milan, for example, please, volentieri. So here we see, talking about food waste with a little bit of science behind it, and putting this into practical decision making. Now, unfortunately, for me, this is not enough information for you to replace me in my work, because it actually is a really complicated subject. This is the information that I just told you verbally. We see that in this scenario, actually calculating the carbon footprint here, that the beef scenario, I just chose that these foods were produced in Europe and Russia as a generic scenario, that the beef scenario is the worst scenario in this case, and the lettuce and wheat scenarios are actually, let's say, not that bad in comparison. This is about the production of this food. If we also consider what happens to this waste, what happens to waste? It can go to feed animals, it can go to compost, it can go to landfill, all sorts of different scenarios. Let's say it goes to landfill. Actually, in Europe, this would most likely not be the case, but let's say it does go to landfill. Then we see a different story. Now we see the story that actually the wheat and the lettuce are just as important as beef. You can think of this as the carbohydrates, the sugars that are in things like wheat. When they're in a landfill, they make carbon dioxide and CH4, let's say carbon dioxide equivalents. So this is actually a different picture than we showed before. Things get complicated. And of course, as we heard from the fantastic presentations before, and for example, the work that Ample Harvest is doing, this is not, food waste, let's say, is not just about carbon footprint. It's a much more complicated issue. Food waste is also a nutrition security problem. I thought I knew a lot about nutrition. I started running a lot of numbers. Does anyone know how many more times vitamin A a sweet potato has compared to a regular potato? Anybody know? Any nutritionists in the house? 10 times. Thanks, Christine, from Foodways. Good guess. Anyone else? It is 7,000 times more. It has 7,000 times more vitamin A. That means if you're a policymaker in sub-Saharan Africa and you have populations suffering from blindness because of a deficiency in vitamin A, you need to be focusing on waste with high vitamin A, perhaps, and not waste with low vitamin A. This could be an example, focusing on sweet potatoes and not regular potatoes. Food waste is not just one thing. There's not just one answer. There's not just one priority. So we talked a little bit about carbon footprint, talked a little bit about nutrition. I hope you're all experts now and you can bring this home with you. We created a calculator in order to take all of this information and do the calculations yourself, or to join up with some kind of sustainability consultancy or someone who's good at math who can help you. This calculator is free of charge. It is available to everyone, and we want you to use it. Tell us what you don't like about it. Tell us what needs to be improved. Give us the feedback. It was sponsored by EAT and the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. It helps measure environmental metrics, also nutrition, by the way. Understand the context of this, hopefully act to reduce the impacts that you're having, and communicate about the success. The calculator project, or the tool, is aligned with the World Resource Institute's, WRI's, Food Loss and Waste Protocol. We talked a little bit about how in the EU, for example, there's now protocols about how to measure waste. There's a protocol through the WRI, which I recommend all of you to look up, and the tool is compatible with this information. This is the website. We launched it at the United Nations General Assembly meeting last year. And again, please have a look and tell me what you think. And I hope that the next time that you think about food waste, instead of feeling sad or emotional about it, you actually start to think about the science behind the decisions that you're making. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Sofia Christina and I'm 13.
And I'm Nikita, I'm 13 too.
Almost, oh, and our presentation,
Yeah, well,
please.
presentation please.
Oh, thank you. So, almost 3 years ago, we founded the Compola project. The main idea of our project is recycling of organic scraps from school canteens into compost to fertilize soil and to nourish trees.
Actually, everything started with waste near my house. I have noticed that soil on this waste was so bad that even grass grew badly. Unfortunately, in city we have many similar locations, so we think we can change this situation. Together with my parents, we thought about how we can change this situation, and we thought about composting. I shared the idea with Sofia, and we started to explore this question.
Back then, there were a few companies and social projects that were involved into recycling of plastic, glass, paper, and metal. However, the recycling share represented only 5% out of all wastes. The rest, 95%, including organic wastes, just went to the landfills. A lot of people did not care how their behavior affected the nature. And composting didn't exist in cities. Only some people in villages were composting organic wastes. During the launch of our project, we found only two restaurants which were composting organic wastes. And a lot of people didn't understand the difference between composting and decay of wastes. That's why they didn't dare to do it.
Some adults asked us for what we are going to use compost, because in cities we don't have many gardens. But we knew not only vegetables or fruit trees can be fertilized. We knew about the practice of other countries and looked at the street tree maps of New York and Melbourne. They depict the real states of each tree. When a tree in good condition, this depicts the green triangle. With the yellow one need to be fertilized, and with the red one need to be fertilized as soon as possible. That is why we decided to use compost for nourishing trees, because our trees need it around schools and along the streets. In this way, we avoid its transportations to other locations, because that could lead to an increase in carbon dioxide emissions.
We understood that our project may have a double effect on improvement of ecological situation in our country, in Ukraine. On the one side, we will decrease the size of landfills, because now the territory of our landfills is like a territory of Switzerland, and together with illegal landfills is like a territory of Belgium, and it's really bad. And on the other side, we will increase the soil fertility and improve the air quality by improving the state of city trees. Since we are pupils, we decided that it would be a good idea to start recycling organic scraps from school. And we calculated that each school produce at least 1 ton of organic waste every year, and just send them to the landfills.
So all we needed was to buy a composter and equip the territory where it will be installed. Because who doesn't have money, we have decided to find someone a crowdfunding platform. We had 40 days to get the needed amount, but our project Compola has gained such public attention in media, that our campaign reaches the 2 days, reaches goal in 2 days. It was a faster crowdfunding campaign in Ukraine. People continued to send money to us, so we got much more. Yeah, and we were able to buy composters for for our and other 6 schools. And in December 2017 year, we installed the first composter on the territory of our school and started composting. And after 9 months, in early September, we got the first organic fertilizer.
When we understood how many people are interested in our project, we decided to promote our idea further. Soon we won the Dream Actions competition and we spent the received funds to purchase of composters for other 24 schools, one in each region of Ukraine. It should be mentioned that at the beginning it was not easy to find the schools which was ready to join us in our efforts. The reason was that schools were afraid that it will be really difficult to separate organic waste from another wastes and that wastes may smell badly or attract insects or wild animals. Based on the example of our school, we show other schools that it's easy and composting is possible in schools.
1 year after, our Minister of Ecology, Ostap Samarak, wrote to me on Facebook and invited to a meeting. It turned out he was reading about us in Ukrainian media. I told him about our plans to the future and he suggested to help in scaling the project countrywide. So it went on the government level. After a few months, together with the Ministry of Ecology and Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine, we started a competition among Ukrainian schools and sent composters to 200 winner schools.
Currently, some schools join us.
Presentation.
Oh, thank you. So, currently some schools join us by their own initiative. They collect plastic, glass, paper and metal, sell them to special recycling companies and spend gathered money to buy composters. So, idea of composting help to promote recycling of other wastes, which is very important in our country because the recycling of other wastes represented less than 10%. Sorry. Also, composting led to the rise of city farming. Some schools restored their greenhouses and others wanted to make mini open-air vegetable gardens. In such gardens, they will plant greens, vegetables, fruits, and another plants. Of course, they will nourish them by their produced compost.
Today, more than 230 schools in Ukraine are involved in the Compower project. This is about 100,000 students who participate and learn about composting of organic waste. In total, we composted more than 100 tons of organic waste. Not only school children are now familiar with the idea of composting. People who previously know nothing about composting looking for opportunities to compost their domestic waste. Our main goal was to spread that idea, composting domestic waste of each people. We hope in 5 or 10 years, each and every school will be member about zero waste program and composting will become a common practice.
Finally, if you wanted to know more about us and see our photos, there is our site and page in Facebook, so you're welcome.
Thank you.